Hello, everyone. Welcome to North American Association of Sales Engineers, Power Up with NAASE. We are a group of professionals and dedicated sales engineers, technical sales representatives, solution consultants, whatever the title may be, but we are here, a wide range of industries. Our mission from a very beginning has been to foster a base of certified sales engineers across North America and Europe. Enable them to connect and connect with one another and activate the profession. So if you have not joined us before, we are here to share our knowledge, bring a number of folks from the industry and share whatever we have and connect with you. So welcome. My name is Diaco Cervantes. I am the president of North American Association of Sales Engineers. And today I have the honor of welcoming Sachin Wadhawan, an author and a awesome person that I would love to introduce to you now. Sachin, welcome.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, NAASE, for having me on this webinar. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Very excited to be sharing some insights. A little quick introduction about myself. My name is Sachin Wadhawan. I live in Austin, Texas. I fell into sales engineering 2 decades ago, like probably many of you, and have just loved this role, have loved this profession. I've really had my passion and my commitment to raise awareness for this profession. I have a podcast called Coffee with Sales Engineers, and I now have a book as of early this year called Trust Your SE. All of that to continue to raise awareness for this profession. So I fell into this role. I think all the stars aligned. And when I fell into it, it felt natural. And the reason I do the podcast, the reason I have the book is because I don't want more stars to align. I want people to actually learn about this role so they don't have to be in the right place at the right time to enjoy this amazing profession that we have of sales engineering. So thank you, Diana, for having me here.
Well, welcome. And what a great introduction. I think a lot of us, a lot of our stars align because a lot of us actually fell into the profession as well throughout our careers. And that's one of the things that we love to talk about at some point is what the career path is. And if you know anything about North American Association of Sales Engineers, a lot of folks do end up in the career that way. And one of our passions is to get students involved in that, but more on that a little bit later. So we'll talk about that.
Yes. But I am wearing my t-shirt, my favorite Trust Your SE t-shirt, talking about, getting people involved. I have 2 daughters, 9 and 11, and I do have little t-shirts for them that say future sales engineers. So this way, when they're, going into their elementary school, maybe they get to talk about sales engineering right at the early stage. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Get them started early. Well, today's session is how to become the sales engineer everyone trusts. And you are definitely the person to talk to about. Your book is amazing. I started reading it. I'm probably halfway through, and the nuggets of gold are incredible. And you have had relationships with lots of heavyweights that we know in the industry, and you've definitely put a lot of effort in it. And we are very excited to have that information shared with our audience today. So some of the topics that we're going to cover today, and this is going to be more of a discussion. So that's how I would like to run this show today. We have an audience that will be putting information in the chat. So guys, if you want to ask him any questions or if you have any comments, please add them in the chat. I will be monitoring that on my other screen over here. And let's get started. So one of the topics that we're going to be talking about is proven ways for SEs to build trust, how to partner effectively with their sales and beyond, and then turn your SE role into a growth platform. So to get us started, I think one of the most important parts of being a good SE is trust, because the part of SE, the role of the SE is working with your sales manager, account manager, hand in hand, and to build that trust. Like, tell me a little bit more about what your position is on that.
Yeah, Trust is at the core of it. That's why I wanted the book to be Trust Your SE, because trust is very critical to entire sales process, right? Entire buying journey. But we're today focusing on trust, definition of trust and importance of trust within sales engineering, right? So before we go into it, I also wanted to take the context of why trust in sales engineering. It's not about because your prospects want to trust you to, I don't know, babysit their kids or walk their pets, or they trust you to tell them how to do their job or how to grow their business. The buyers that you're speaking to as sales engineers and solutions consultants, they really want to trust you to help them evaluate the solution that they're looking for, right? They want to trust you for the information they need to make a decision for should they go with your platform or should they go with your competitor's platform, right? So it's really in the context of what is your interaction with these people that you're building trust with, and how do you improve that, how you enhance that, right? When you have that context, right, which is the smaller scope of who you're engaging with, why they need to trust you, I think of this other word that really complements it really well, which is credibility, right? You have to earn your trust. You have to build credibility. And a lot of this doesn't come with just you showing up or what your title is or what company you work for. I think some of our AEs, many of us have experienced that, will introduce their SEs as she's the smartest person in the company, or she's my technical guru, or right. And they are just putting too much emphasis on what you are called. What you're called or what your title is or what company you work for doesn't really build you that, bring you that trust, right? Otherwise, SEs at Google would be just walk into a meeting and say, I work for Google, so you should just trust me, right? And that's not the case. So you have to really earn this trust and earn this credibility with your prospects, by creating strategic value for them, right? It's not just about, do you have the technical skills? Do you have the technical depth and understanding of your product and your platform to answer your questions? I think that's table stakes for all of us, right? That's a given for when we're in the role. But you really have to think about, what does this prospect need? And what I'm answering, is that creating value for why they need to trust me, why they need to trust in the platform that I'm selling, right? So it really is in that context of that. And Diana, it's interesting. I get questions all the time about, as an SE leader, do I focus on hiring people with deep technical skills? What about SEs that have never been SEs? Do they make good SEs? And really, when we think about this credibility, it's interesting, in my observation, non-traditional SE career paths, right? People that don't come from computer science background or deep technical expertise actually have an easier time building this credibility, because they don't, in the default mode, they don't dip into their technical strength to answer an objection, right? The only thing they have is to build, right, their awareness, their understanding of the solution. So they dip into value versus technical. So sometimes that deep technical expertise can hurt you when
Right.
you're trying to build that credibility.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I heard teachers make good SEs.
Teachers make great SEs,
Yeah.
musicians make great SEs, right? I think it's anybody who is in performance, right?
Yeah.
If you know how to build a trust with an audience, engage with an audience, right? Manage an audience, right? If the meeting is going certain way, like, can you actually sense that
Yeah.
and change the tone, change the vibe? All of those are transferable skills to SEs. But so then the question comes, well, how do you build this credibility? Right. And I think the question I want to ask everybody listening in is, does your audience see you as a thought leader? Right. Regardless of what your title is, right? Are you walking into that conversation with the credibility that you understand what's going on, macroeconomic factors, right? What's going on in the industry? What's going on with the competitors? What's going on with your company, right? How do you, as an SE or as an SE leader, stay up to the information that should be available to you, right? Are you spending time reading all that information? Do you have alerts where it sends you information about if there's industry, things changing, right? What analysts are saying about your platform and your competitors' platform. I say all that is because people that read and consume that information kind of bring that level of credibility in their approach to answering the questions that your buyers are asking.
Yeah.
Those small things in buyer's mind helps build that trust and credibility, right? Being a thought leader, not just being a sales engineer.
Yeah, and it's no longer just about just the functionality, the click and point. It's about how you solve other people's problems and how you can solve their problems as
Yeah.
well.
And their problems are interesting, right? Because it's I know everybody says every prospect is unique, right? But it's so natural for us SEs, especially when we have multiple AEs and every prospect starts to look the same. So it is natural to look at a discovery information that you got from your AE and say, you know what, I know this audience, this is what they're going to ask. These are the objections that are going to come up. But I would challenge everybody to say, are you truly thinking about this business, this prospect in a unique way, right? Do you understand what makes them unique? And the last thing I would say is, this trust and credibility, I put them in two different categories, Diana. There's an internal trust and credibility, and there's external trust and credibility, right? It's just like as humans, we can't be a great human being at home and go out in the world and be a bully, right? It's like we are who we are. And I think this trust has to be authentic in the sense of wherever you are, right? So when I think internal, I think do the internal company trust you to document everything that you're learning in the sales process, right? Do they expect you to follow through? If you tell an AE that, hey, I'm going to follow up on that question, do you actually follow through? Do you support others, right? If you've been in the industry for 10 years and you have a new SC that's new to the industry, are you investing time in helping that individual, get better, right? So those are some of the internal ways that you're building trust. And then externally, this is an interesting one. Do you ever say no to your prospects' questions, right?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough
That's
one,
a tough
right?
one.
And there's like people say never say no, right? Reps will say never say no. But think about from a buyer's perspective, if they're asking you and you just say, yes, we do that, yes, we do that, yes, we do that. After the seventh or eighth yes, they're like, their platform that good that they do everything, right?
I have to agree with you on that, and even to enforce that point, because I have been in positions where we had won deals because we actually challenged the customer, and we were able to have an argument, a day-long argument about, not argument, but a challenge them on why, and then had a discussion for an entire day on why we needed to do it a different way. And
Yeah,
it was basically like, it's not that even if you don't choose us, this is why you should do it this specific way. And
right.
they appreciated that. And they viewed that as the trust point of having a partner and not just a vendor.
You're
So it's
co-creating the solution with them.
exactly.
That's spot
Exactly.
on, right? It's after you have built a trust when they believe that they and you are trying to solve for
So
these challenges
yes.
together. And it's again like going back to you're not selling, you're solving, right? And I think trust is at the core of that. So
Yeah. And just to wrap up this, the point on trust, internally it also is, have you updated your Salesforce yet?
yes,
Closing it off with a little joke. Every AE and SC hears that.
it is that trust and credibility that you're
Yeah.
equally accountable to your
Yeah.
prospect for being
Yeah.
responsive, for being thorough as you are to your internal stakeholders. Absolutely. So trust is very important.
Yeah. Moving on to the second point, turning your role into a growth platform. Tell me about that. How do you use your SE experience as a launch pad into your leadership or strategic
Yeah.
role?
Yeah. Do we so to me it's sales engineering is at such a core critical space in a company, right? So you have the sales engineering role touches so many different functions, and most people don't realize that that's a unique skill set that sales engineers can not just be part of sales, but have an influence and impact beyond different roles, right? So think about how do you leverage that experience, right? As an SC, you can easily move into leadership. You can easily move into product management, because I've seen that, many strong SCs, many successful SCs have gone into becoming great product managers because they understand how to connect with customers, right? They understand how to translate that technical knowledge into business value, and vice versa. Many SCs that have gone into services roles, because they understand exactly what solutions prospects need, and then how those solutions need to be realized. But even when the SC role is such a launch pad, because you get exposed to so many functions, it's interesting, Diana, like 90% of SCs that I see in my network are SCs for life, right? You can do all these roles, but it's still so exciting for you to just keep doing sales engineering, because it's the best of the both worlds, right? Best of all worlds, I should say.
Did you know that I went from sales engineering to implementation, and then back to pre-sales of some sort?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then now I'm actually looking to get back into sales engineering.
It keeps pulling you back, because
I know.
it's got best of both worlds. Now, I
Yeah.
have that experience. Now, having said that, right, I would still encourage people to try different, right? Because try different roles if you can, or dabble into, side projects, because there is something to be said that being able to carry a quota, being able to run an entire sales cycle, being able to run the entire implementation process, right, gives you a different level of empathy for and a broader view for what sales engineering truly is. In my own personal experience, right, I was a sales engineer and sales engineer leader for a long time, moved into tech partnerships, and I can tell you, Diana, like what superpower I brought into tech partnerships was the fact that I understood our product really well at the deep level. And when I was talking to these partners, I, compared to other tech partner managers, had a sixth sense of better understanding, a better together story. Like, why would a customer use our platform along with their platform, right? And I think a lot of partner managers may not have that level of depth in technical and product knowledge, right?
That's a very good
And then
point.
I moved into channel sales, which is really indirect sales. So I had a team of quota carrying reps that, we worried about forecast and things like that. But what was really important in channel sales for me was co-selling with your AEs, right? As SCs, we are used to co-selling with AEs, right? I always call this relationship as Batman and Robin type relationship. But so that was my superpower, that I knew how to work with AEs, and I brought that to channel sales and helped me be successful there. And most recently, I've joined as a go-to-market leader at a very, very early startup stage startup. And it's interesting, you wear multiple hats, right? And going back to SCs having this launch pad and exposure to all different functions, right? You get to work with product marketing, you get to work with services and product management and product. In early stage, you have to wear multiple hats. And I think the fact that I've experienced all that is helping me be the first SC, be the first AE, be the first BDR. But the most important thing where sales engineering is really important for early stage founders, is the ability to listen, right? As SCs, when reps are doing the presentation, or when we're doing the demonstration, we are constantly listening to and observing how the audience is reacting to the solution that we're proposing, or reacting to the answers that we're providing them. That superpower is really important at early stage, when you don't have your product market fit figured out, when you don't know what messaging would work. Being able to listen to your prospects' signals and noise and their reactions is really important, and it's a good use of sales engineering skills. So again, you can do so many things, guys and gals, but I still see a lot of us keep coming back to sales engineering.
Yeah. We do have actually one question, and I think this kind of relates back to the first topic that we had from Yulia. We have, can you share an example where trust helped you win a deal even when the product wasn't the best fit?
That's a really good question. I think the way I would answer that, if the product is not a good fit, I, as an SE, should not be proposing, or trying to sell that deal, right? But I think if I believe that the product was, I guess let me rephrase that. I think you meant that it was not the best fit, but there were some workarounds that you could that could be done to make the solution relevant for that prospect. In that case, I think it's transparency and authenticity, right? It's kind of going back to not saying no, but being transparent with prospects, saying, look, 80% of what you're asking, we do really well, and let me show you how we do it. 20% of what you're asking, we don't do it natively out of the platform. Some of these are going to be in the future roadmap, and I can tell you exactly where they are directionally in the roadmap. That may or may not be viable to you for what you're looking for. But here are some workarounds for what you're trying to do, how our platform can do, right? And I think one more comment on that question is, in addition to not saying no to some of the technical objections or the requirements, I believe that putting yourself in the buyer's shoes, right, and thinking through what questions are they not asking. Like, think about, have you ever asked a prospect that after the demo is complete or after they've asked all the questions is, you know what, most customers like you usually also want to know about this, this, and this that you haven't asked me about. Think about the impact of just that question. Demonstrate that, one, you're thinking like them, and you're wanting to make sure that they get all the information they need to make the right decision. So I hope I answered that question the right way, but sorry, I misunderstood the question earlier on. But if your solution is not a good fit for a prospect, please, you are accountable by your company to not sell it.
I like your answer, Sachin. I think you're spot on. I think making sure they think of the things that they haven't thought about first.
Yes.
And they ask the questions to make sure that they're also not buying what they shouldn't be buying.
Yes.
And that's what being a partner means.
Disqualification is very hard to do in sales. Yeah. And I think it's harder to do for account executives who have quota pressures and things like that. But I think it should be easier for SEs to at least advocate for, right? If you see something that this is not going to be a good customer of ours, it is our responsibility to document, to create awareness, and then to be transparent with the prospect, right? Because this, even if it's not a good fit, it may still be a good solution for them as long as they know, eyes wide open, what they're getting into.
Exactly. And there might be certain situations where your company might be willing to create certain solutions for that customer and put it on the roadmap. So be open to that as well, is to advocate within your company. And that goes to that internal trust area, is talking to your product team and going and advocating for them. And I have seen situations where product trajectories have been changed because of that. And partnerships have been formed, and the sky's the limit. But
product roadmap is a totally different, product roadmap discussion we can take as a different topic.
Yeah, it's a completely different, but I'm just saying, like, I have seen that happen because a customer needed something that the product didn't have. And, so there is another question regarding building trust from Paulina. Curious, do you think building trust works differently across cultures, like in international sales?
Oh, I absolutely believe so. It's there's different culture nuances in terms of, how fast do you talk, how you address responses. So yes, I think the short answer is absolutely. And this kind of goes back to understanding your audience and building trust, right? It's not just culture, but you may have two prospects that are identical prospects, but one is from New York and one is from Texas. If you don't know that, and if you don't know where they're coming from, you have to treat each of those individuals differently and accommodate, to that. One of the things I talk about in the book as one of the SE superpowers is I call us chameleons. And I think that chameleon, Paulina, addresses your question. It's a superpower of SEs that we can walk into a conversation, observe the colors of that conversation, the different characters in that conversation, maybe cultural differences, maybe it's somebody who's used your competitor versus somebody who hasn't used your competitor in the past. All of those insights can help us shape shift into accommodating what this prospect really wants to see. So it's a good quality to have.
Yeah, Sachin, Aaron also says that in Latin America, customers tend to need some relationship formation as a precondition.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
trust. So,
Absolutely.
very interesting. Very good, very good. All right, so we are moving on. Our last point of discussion is turning your role into turning your role.
The second question, yes.
The second question is, so we're looking at sorry, where are we?
Yeah, we moved to the third question.
We to the third point is partnering effectively with sales and beyond.
Yes.
So what are we going to talk about in this point?
Yes.
Strengthening your day-to-day collaboration with your AEs and product and marketing, finding an individual approach for each of your AEs, which is actually kind of very interesting because I have had, this is a very, I've worked once in my career with 16 AEs, and I was a lone wolf, which is what led me to join NAASE, and a different story, but that is basically how to, and you mentioned the word chameleon.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
With 16, I'm sure it was fun, Diana, but
it was yeah.
This is
Luckily, I was in my 20s.
This is a big and exciting topic for me because I truly believe that AE-SC relationship as at the very, very core of our profession, and it's one of those relationships that's often underlooked, undervalued, not enough invested in it. I ask SCs all the time. I ask SC leaders all the time, look across your AE-SC relationships. And if you were to grade them, each of them A+, what percentage of in your team, or for SCs listening in, out of the AE relationships that you have, what percentage of them are A+? And the common answer on average, Diana, I get is about 25-30% are A+. About 40-50% are A-, B+. They're okay. And there's some that are in the C, D category, right? That are struggling relationships, personalities don't match or whatnot. But I think those get addressed. But a lot of us are kind of comfortable with an okay relationship with the account executive. And I believe that's not right. I believe we should be striving for A+ relationship with the AEs. And some of this, it's a mutual relationship. So a lot of it falls on us, a lot of it falls on the AE. But some of the, questions I want to challenge the audience is in, how are you interacting with your AEs? Are you reflecting back at what is your day-to-day collaboration with the account executives, right? How often do you meet? And when you meet, what do you talk about? Is it a tactical conversation about, hey, let's look at the pipeline, let's look at what deals are happening, you're doing this, I'm doing this, make sure this gets done by Friday? And that's necessary, but that's not all what builds trust and credibility, right? John Kerr and Peter Cohen, there's all these legends that talk about trust and relationship and trusted advisor. And I believe that if your relationship with your AE is of trusted advisor, then those one-on-one engagements are not just about tactical, they're about your AE asking you, hey, these are the 4 opportunities we have to win this quarter. Sachin, what do you think? What do you think we can do better? Am I doing all the right things? Do you think there's different approaches we can do? I also challenge the audience here. Do you treat your AE the same way, right? If you had 12 AEs, Diana, I can bet you all 12 of them were different personalities, right? And so do you acknowledge as SEs that the same approach, the same process, the same ROE that you have with AE number one can and should apply to AE number two, right? And if you flip that question, do your AEs treat all SEs the same? And if they do, that probably bothers you, right? Because what works for one SE is not the way you want that AEs to interact with you or, or engage with you, right? So I think we both owe it to each other, and treating each other, with respect individually, not just as you're my SE, you're my AE. And the last thing I would say is, do you really know where your AEs stand in the quarter, right? We always talk about it's a trusted relationship between the AE and SE, but it's not trusted if you truly don't understand, are they winning? Are they losing? What are they struggling with? Like, think about, do you know what the last performance review was with their AE and their manager? Like, what did the manager actually tell them to improve upon? Do you know that? If you knew that, would you support them? Maybe their manager was telling them, hey, you need to be more consultative, you need to do better discoveries. How can you contribute to that, right? And the last one is, do you personally know what your AEs are trying to accomplish, right? Are they having babies? Are they about to retire? Are they looking for, for a new house? Knowing them personally brings that level of trust because you are now part of their life and you're part of their professional life. So these are some of the things that I think if you do, you get to strengthen that AE and SE relationship and treat each AE SE relationship as unique because it truly is unique.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's hard to do when you have 12, to be very honest.
And to be honest, I think I made I did have very good relationships with a lot of them. It was extremely hard to juggle. I think the personal relationships were not as hard to juggle. What was hard was the expectations of how they ran the calls and how they wanted the information to be laid out and how some expected demos on FSIs because we had various things going on. Some wanted to hurry up, some wanted discovery first, some didn't want discovery. They wanted to have discovery and turn around and do the demo right away, like a canned demo.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to do business a certain way, so I had to adjust to how they wanted to do the business. So it was chaotic all the time. The point is that I didn't have the resources that we have now, to be able to fight back, so to speak.
It takes effort.
Evidence that this is not the right way.
Yeah.
So I was fighting, I was in my 20s with A's that were in their 50s.
Yeah.
So
it takes effort and it takes investment. I would say,
right.
Thanks to our profession has matured. I think most sales leaders and SE leaders understand the importance of AE to SE ratio because they've seen that, the higher the ratio goes, the less time and the bandwidth SEs and AEs have in investing in these relationships that we're talking about, right? And when you don't invest in those relationships, you don't have that trust and credibility, you kind of go on this autopilot and then the quality of the outcome suffers, right? So I think it's good that, leaders understand those ratios better now than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah. So having this type of evidence and proving out what is successful and what is not, allows us to have more successful engagements.
One more thing I would add to that before we jump to the next point is I already talked about the unique vantage point that SEs have that helps them launch into different careers. I also think we often undervalue the importance of that unique vantage point, right? And the unique vantage point is we are in front of prospects that are also evaluating other solutions. So we get to know competitive intel, right? I challenge the audience on how often are you stepping back and saying, I just learned something new from this prospect. I need to share it with somebody, right? Internally. Marketing rolls out new messaging. There's new products that are rolled out. AEs and SEs are out there presenting. SEs observe, like the AE just presented this new value proposition. Did the audience react positively or okay or negatively to it? And when we observe that, how often do we go back and talk to the marketing person to say, hey, this is what I observed, right? So again, don't undervalue the unique vantage point that we have as SEs. Do something about that, right? Like if you see an opportunity, the rep is thinking this is going to close this quarter, but you've got a sixth sense that says, you know what, based on the questions they're asking, I don't think this is going to close. Does the sales leaders, does the sales manager want to know that as part of their forecast, right? So identify who can benefit from this knowledge, but just know that you have this superpower, this vantage point that is very valuable across the company, not just within the sales team.
Okay. I don't have any questions. So let's move on. All right. Are we ready to talk about your book?
Let's do it. I've got it right here.
All right. So let me do.
I think while you're pulling that up,
Share. Yeah.
obviously, the intention of writing the book, as much as I would love for SCs to read it, I really want more account executives and people that engage with SCs to read it more, because the intention of the book was kind of going back to the trust and credibility. If you know your SC more, if you know how they fell into the role, if you know what their career path looks like, if you know what motivates and inspires them, you will have the empathy and an incentive to build stronger relationship with your SE. So again, to me, even if you buy the book, please share it with your AE so they don't have to buy it, but they'll learn something from it. It's available on Amazon, but I've got some fun things in this book. And one of the fun things, which I think is very relevant to this webinar, is I've got these 7 SC sins and 7 AE sins, right? And just from my experience and talking to a lot of SCs, I won't go through the details of all of them, but I'll just list them out to see if the audience listening in can relate to this. So Diana, do you want me to start with SC sins first or AE sins first?
Ooh, I would say let's start with AE sins first.
Okay. All right. So see if this resonates with people. All right. Number 1, calendar abuse. AE is just randomly put meeting on my calendar for 9 a.m. demo tomorrow, and I don't like that.
We Friday at 2 p.m.
Number 2, made up SC titles, right? It's like, dude, just use my official title. You don't need to make up a title to build credibility. I'm going to build credibility with the way I approach the solutioning. Number 3, challenge a technical response, right? That's a big one. Some AEs that may be in the company for a long time, right, can have a tendency to do that, but that's a no-no. Number 4, never-ending slides. We only have limited time in front of an audience, and the rep goes on, and that shrinks your time more and more into when you can create value for your buyers. SCs don't like that. Number 5, lack of recognition. So yes, AEs close a deal and it's like, yay, we won this deal and beat the competition, but you forgot to mention your trusted advisor who helped you along the way. Number 6, premature involvement. I think this is happening less and less, but it's like, hey, Diana, would you just come on this call just in case they ask any questions, right? Not a good use of SE resources. And number 7, I think you mentioned this yesterday, Diana, cheating on your SE. I don't like, for some reason, don't want to include you, but maybe I'll pull this other SE on this call. That's a big no-no for SEs, and it's a big AE sin. All right, hopefully that resonated with people. Yeah. I don't know if there's
the one that is up here is the never-ending slides.
Yeah. If there are other sins that you know of, please chime in the chat.
Yeah, that's sin. All right, season. Let's see.
All right, so this is like, please, don't get defensive on me here, but I think you all will appreciate this. The number 1 that I think most AEs complain about is exclude the rep, right? AEs are quarterbacks. They want to have full control over their entire opportunity. The moment you have this sidebar conversation or you're not including CCing the rep on it, they feel loss of control. So that's the number 1 I hear from account executives. Number 2, unnecessary technical friction. So this is a typical prospect asks a question. There's a very simple, easy answer to that objection, which satisfies the prospect's need. But because of our passion for technology, right, we may want to go a little bit deeper into making sure they understood all the aspects of that API endpoint. AEs may not like that. So that's a number 2 sin. Number 3, introducing new players. So we may be authentically, genuinely doing that. It's like, hey, this partner over here does this really well. Let me introduce that. Or, I know our, implementation manager kind of knows this answer. Let me introduce them to the prospect. AEs don't like more cooks in the kitchen. So be thoughtful and mindful of who you are introducing into the sales cycle. Number 4 is argue in front of prospects. So even if your AE is doing something wrong, it's always best to let it slide, follow up right after the meeting to make sure how we damage control, educate them on what they did wrong, and make sure that you follow up with the prospect to clarify what was wrong, but don't hurt their credibility. We've talked so much about trust and credibility for SEs. AEs are also trying to develop that same level of trust and credibility with their buyers, right? So you don't want to hurt that. Number 5 is kind of goes back to the responsiveness, failing to follow up, right? That's, AEs don't like that. If you told a prospect that you're going to follow up with XYZ, make sure that you do. Number 6, which I don't think a lot of us do, but some of us may have tendency to do, is discuss pricing. Don't talk about pricing or commercials. Stay in your swim lane of the technical solution and solving, not selling. And number 7, which is probably a combination of all of this, try to control the sales cycle, right? This kind of goes back to Batman-Robin relationship. The account executive is fully accountable for making sure, that this opportunity comes to a win. You need to be contributing to that success, not taking over the steering wheel. So,
Good.
any others, please chime in the chat.
Yeah, I don't see anything popping up. I think those are pretty much those pretty much cover all the sins.
Perfect. Well, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have more ideas. Maybe I'll include in the second
version 2. Well, that's awesome. All right. I don't see any other comments, no questions. Well, thank you. Like I said, I started reading the book. I'm halfway through. It's awesome. I love the book. Easy to read, lots of golden nuggets. And if you guys are aware of some of those heavyweights in the industry, you have had, like I said, great conversations, lots of insights from them. So yeah, so I think we're ready to move on if there's no other questions.
Actually, one question that after writing the book, I often, since we're talking about trust, I often get this question about, you've talked about how to build trust. What breaks trust? And this is the tricky part about trust, is you can have 15 conversations and the 13 or 12 of them, you can be building credibility, building trust. It takes one experience to break that trust, and all the previous trust building activities are gone. It's really hard to come out and rebuild the trust. It can be done, but it's much harder, right? So my 3 common experiences that I've seen and talked to a lot of people that is easy where the trust can be broken is, the first one is lying about a feature, right? You have no idea if that prospect has gone through a similar sales cycle before, if they already, use your product, or they know somebody who uses your product. So when they ask a question about a capability and it's not right, you don't do it. Lying about that is the easiest way. Lie is opposite of trust, and lying about that is the easiest way to break that trust. Number 2 is kind of going back to responsiveness, follow up. If you tell a prospect that, that's a really good question, I need to dig a little bit deeper into getting you the accurate answer, let me follow up on that, but you never do, easy way to break trust. After that, when you say you follow up, they're like, I don't know if this person
will believe you,
follow through or not, right? They don't believe you. And the third one is, I don't think a lot of people do, but in a highly competitive opportunities, this can be an easy one, is bashing your competition, or having a negative approach to differentiation, then focusing on the strengths of your platform and your solution, right? And that, that can easily, because prospects then look at to say, if this person is saying this about this solution, what else could they be saying in other scenario, right? So just always stay positive, always focus on the highlights. Unless somebody genuinely asks, like, what do you think? How is A and B different, and what does B not do that's different? But bashing your competition can very easily break the trust as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with all three of them, and yeah, and I have seen some scenarios where they have, yeah. That's all I'm going to say. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, so let me go through that. Make sure that we answer everyone's questions. Chris has a question. Any thoughts on KPIs for SEs? And the second question, can never seem to find the right metric. Technical wins, POV volume.
That's a good question. I'm not sure this context, that's the right answer. I can tell you one of my favorite KPIs is the technical win. I think a lot of companies look at SC performance, closely tied to sales performance. Did we actually win that opportunity? And I've started to love this ability for SC teams to track, did we get a technical win? And the way I've defined technical win is, did the prospect tell us that we are vendor of choice, or we have addressed all of their questions and concerns, and now it's just a matter of pricing and contract. And the reason I've started to appreciate that KPI, Diana, is because as I've moved across from sales engineering to quota carrying, direct sale, indirect sales roles, I've learned that there's so much that happens outside of the SC function and SC involvement, right? There's a lot of effort goes into qualifying opportunities and even getting people to talk to you and agree to a demo, right? It's a big effort. And then once the sales cycle is done, there's so much complexity that happens in legal and contract and red lines that most SCs are not aware of, and they don't have control over, right?
Yes.
So holding us accountable for, hey, Sachin, you did a great job in this demo and in this solutioning for this prospect. You showed them the value and how they can get to the outcomes and success metrics that they want. But you know what? We closed the deal because I was offering them this much discount and they wanted more, right? Or they chose another competitor because somebody, an exec over there, likes this other competitor better, right? So now the SC is getting penalized for not winning that deal, even though they had very limited control over that, right? So I think that's a really good KPI. It's not easy to track in a lot of systems, but if you can, I would highly recommend tracking the technical win along with your sales win on your SC teams.
Yes, agree. That's all the questions we have in the chat.
Please reach out if there's connect with me on LinkedIn if there's any other questions, or I'm happy to talk more about KPIs.
He says thank you. All right. So that brings us to the end of our awesome discussion. All right. So again, wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yes, please connect with Sachin on LinkedIn and buy his book. Really. It's a good book. And for you, all of you that have the Amazon Kindle Unlimited, it's on there. It's part of it.
Thank you for having me, Diana. Really appreciate it. Great conversation.
You're very welcome, and we look forward to having you again for the second book that you're going to be writing.
Absolutely.
So in closing, I just wanted to let you know that we do have a new website. So if you haven't checked it out yet, I urge you to go to check out our new website and click around, see what some of the things that have changed. We will be coming up with a new member portal. So we're working on that today. So it's going to have a lot more easier membership and certification process working through it. So we're working on that. We are going to enhance our certification process. So that's going to be coming up. I'm not going to give too much away on that. Maybe next time when we have our session. And so also, if you want to get involved in sharing ideas or test new features, you're more than welcome. Please join us. Send an email to us, and we will be able to get you registered and involved. And we would love to have you as part of our organization. So thank you again. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you here next time. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your week.
Thank you.